Everyone, I think this is going to be a fun one. So, joined tonight, well, I guess it doesn't matter tonight, but I'm interviewing Matt Desiderio at night. Matt, thank you so much for joining.
It's okay. Yeah, it is like it's 3 a.m. and our babies are crying it out. And so we decided to do this interview.
Yeah, just texting each other. We were both awake, right? So
That's
I,
right.
I really appreciate you jumping in. So there's a new label, a relatively new label in the boutique Blu-ray world called Visual Vengeance. That's focusing on shot on video. And Matt was kind enough as an unpaid intern to join us.
Well, they threw me a bone. They said you can go do an interview. I think it's a bad decision on their part, but what can you do? If they're too busy doing the real stuff, the interns, get to play a little.
Jokes on them, I guess.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, it's a brand new company in the sense that the releases have only been out for 2 months now, I believe. But it's years in the process. This company has been loading up on quality work for years to unleash upon the unsuspecting Blu-ray fan base. But just to, I don't want to burst your bubble. We're not going to only do shot on video stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the first release, Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder, is there. It's film and video and a bunch of stuff. It's like mixed together. So
yeah,
but we are getting this shot on video label, and not by label as in we are a label, but people are labeling us as a shot on video company. And that's totally fine. I would say a good portion of what is coming out is shot on video, but there are some 16 8mm, even 35. You would be surprised at some of the stuff coming out.
Well, that's a pretty good segue. So I definitely want to spend some time on your tie-in with Rob and Wild Eye and Visual Vengeance. I definitely want to go there, but just so that people can get to know you a little bit, because I think this is something that's so interesting. So the curatorial game that goes into Visual Vengeance, whatever that end product is on the back of your career, essentially, which has been curating this content for as long as you've kind of been an adult, right?
That's true. I have been a fan of weird, esoteric cinema for most of my life.
Yeah.
And somehow, after involving myself in many aspects, from zines to film programming to self-releasing stuff, I have finally tricked somebody into employing me to do this. And Rob is the man that we're talking about. Rob Hauschild, who started Wild Eye and Visual Vengeance. So he's a good dude for believing me and giving me this opportunity. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the curating of the titles, it's not, some of the stuff is you're going to see that's coming out is no brainer. Like anybody that is remotely interested in shot on video stuff or obscure regional films. I keep saying to anybody who asks, Visual Vengeance focuses on regional films and shot on video. So I always like to include the concept because regional is important. That term of regional films, meaning outside of the Hollywood system, outside of the New York system, those are just as important as the shot on video movies to me. If some guy's got money to make a 35mm film with a couple of friends in his backyard, that's great. Most of those type of films are shot on video, but every once in a while, somebody is crazy enough to spend a lot of money and make a 35mm film. And it happened more, I'd say probably like in the 70s and 60s and stuff like that. But there are a bunch of them that are past that, which would totally fit in with what we're doing.
Well, you see titles like Champagne and Bullets, or you see titles like Action USA. Some of these, they are. I mean, they should be shot on video. They just
Yeah,
have this like,
they're those are like vanity projects, is what
yeah,
I like to
totally.
call them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
which is that, God bless them. I'm glad that there are people out there with money that want to make movies that have no idea what a real movie is like.
They're
Um,
surely entertaining. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, because otherwise we would just get more boring movies, and who the hell wants to watch that?
Exactly.
Uh,
Well, so speaking of regional, that's a good tie-in. So I last night I watched LA Jabber
yeah,
for this. People can't see, but I'm holding it up.
that's
The
true.
really good art. By the way, well, okay, I don't want to jump around too much, but I want to ask about the art in a second.
That's fine.
But while we're on a regional side, so this was directed by Drew Gadaris, who was an actor in Blood Diner, right?
Yeah,
And was also an actor in a Donald Farmer project, Cannibal Hookers. So like this whole world is just, it seems like it's so connected.
he's in. Yeah, he's a B movie actor. He's also in Evil Spawn.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
it's okay. Blood Diner is my favorite movie of all time. That's like end all be all for me. Nothing beats Blood Diner. Uh,
How does it compare to Blood Feast for you? Like how do you compare those?
oh, they're two different worlds. It's
Okay.
like I could never say when people ask me what my favorite movies are. I would never mention a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. But if somebody asked me what of my favorite directors are, of course Herschel Gordon Lewis is going to be in that. You know,
Right.
it's hard to pick a movie of his that I would specifically pinpoint and be like, I love that movie the most. Where I can do that with Blood Diner because it's different. You know, I'm 40, so I'm not too old and I'm not too young.
Uh-huh.
I hope now. I keep saying I've been saying that for the last 10 years, but so it's like I saw Blood Diner before I saw Blood Feast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I saw Blood Feast later. You know, so Blood Diner holds a special spot in my heart. But when people say, "What are your favorite directors?" I love all of those people like Ray Dennis Steckler
Yeah.
and Herschel Gordon Lewis, Doris Wishman, of course Andy Milligan is the tops for me, being a New Yorker. And
Yeah. You're excited.
yeah, his stuff is just, but I can't pick out. Somebody's like, what's your favorite Milligan movie? I mean, I guess if I really had to, I would pick one, but I don't want to because his movies are different in the way that it's like the whole catalog is something to experience and not so much like I can't just be like, oh, just watch this one movie. You would
Right.
think I'm insane for suggesting that.
As opposed to the other reasons I think you're insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but so like it just feels like these regional worlds are pretty tightly connected and everybody kind of knows each other, right?
Yeah, I guess, or maybe, I mean, I don't know. Blood Diner's not a regional film. I mean, that's a Hollywood movie to me.
Oh,
But
sorry, just the Drew and the
but
Donald
yes,
Glover
Drew, Donald Farmer, all that type of stuff. The connection of underground cinema and stuff like and weird cult movies is always interesting to me. How uh you'll find people popping up in each other's movies and
yeah.
and I mean, LA Jabber. I'll tell you, man. This is one of those movies that I feel like I really resurrected and put on the map, like personally. And I hate to like I'm not trying to take credit because the movie was out there and available on video cassette,
Uh-huh.
but nobody ever talked about it.
Mm.
And when I got a copy, and I didn't even get that movie that long ago. I mean, maybe 8 years ago or 9 years ago or something like that. So it's not like an old one for me that I've always loved. Like you say, like Cannibal Hookers is the first shot on video movie I ever saw. And when I first saw it, I hated it. I'm still not the biggest fan of it. I mean, I get it and I appreciate it for what it is, but it's not one of the ones that I gravitate to saying like, oh my God, you got to see Cannibal
Yeah.
Hookers. It's another one of those movies. It's like, if you tell an average person to watch Cannibal Hookers, they'll never listen to you ever again.
Right.
But there are shot on video movies out there that if you suggest to people, they'll be like, wow, I see something in this. I
Yeah.
get it. I get why you're obsessed. But yeah, the LA's Age Jabber. I mean, do you know Dan Kinham from VH Shitfest? Do you know him?
Oh, no, I haven't met him yet, but no, I know that I'm familiar with the label. Sure.
Yeah, and they just put out their first Blu-ray, Corn Sucker,
Yeah.
and I mean Corn Shucker. I'm sorry, I misspoke. But actually, Dan and I made a documentary about VHS collecting together called Adjust Your Tracking.
Yeah.
And Dan, if you know anything about him, he is a buyer, seller, flipper, always selling stuff. And he knows that I like obscure stuff that, if it's on a label that you've never seen before,
Uh-huh.
he's like, you got it, this one's for you, this one's for you, you should.
Uh-huh.
So like, I think I was at Cinema Wasteland and he had, a truck full of tapes like he always did, trying to pawn them off on people, and he had
Uh-huh.
this little stack to show me of things that on labels that he was unaware of, and Jabber was one of them.
Okay.
And I was like, and I probably bought 10 tapes for $40 off of him or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Very minimal amount, because he's looking at these like throwaway tapes.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, did you even look at this? I mean, this is about some guy going around jabbing people with AIDS, an AIDS movie. But so we put in and I don't know if you're familiar with the artwork of the Jabber tape, but it's just called Jabber on the VHS.
Yeah. It's the reversible slip. You can put it in the release, right?
Yeah, the Blu-ray, that's actually a scan of my tape. And it's funny because when I sent Rob that scan, I didn't even think about it. It's got the little video store sticker that my tape has. And I was like, they didn't like edit it or try to find it.
The purple like 8071.
Yeah, that's like off of my tape. When I saw the final product, I laughed when I saw that.
That's great.
So the tape, at Cinema Wasteland, we all get a shitty hotel. We don't get the real hotel where the convention is, and we go to the Super 8 across the way. I don't know if you're familiar with Cinema Wasteland or anything about it, but it's an interesting show. But we always bring a VCR with us. So if we get tapes, we could watch stuff, stay up all night and party and watch movies. So we put the Jabber tape in, and up comes the title screen, LA AIDS Jabber, and we all just lose it. Everybody in the room just goes crazy. We're like, I can't believe this is what it's really called. And then it comes up Drew Goddard, and I'm like, holy hell, because obviously I'm obsessed with Blood Diner, so I knew.
Yeah.
But after that night, I mean, I wouldn't stop talking about LA AIDS Jabber, and that was when I kept bringing up and showing to people, and it started. And now that tape, it goes for a lot of money. Now that's a expensive tape. So it was one that I put on a lot of people's radar, which is why eventually Visual Vengeance puts it out.
Well, so I'm sure this is true for all of your titles. I'll admit this is the one that I've seen, but I want to just get people to buy this because like you can tell that it's written by somebody that understands how to put a story together. Even if, the dialogue isn't perfect all the time, like the beats are there. Like the emotional beats are all there. It's a well-told story.
Well, that's the thing. Drew is making a real movie. He does. It just so happens to be about a guy who runs around stabbing people with AIDS infected blood in a needle. But in that's part just like goes over his own head, I guess. I don't know that, he thinks that. I really don't know what where that comes from. It fits in the concept because it plays out like, like an episode of like Law and Order or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like a real deal drama. But it's psychotronic because of the concept,
Exactly. Well,
and the acting is very interesting. There's amateur acting in it, and then there's some professional acting, so it's like melds together in this weird way. And then it has one hell of an ending. So
yeah, I don't even really want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But so speaking of Blood Diner, then, so Jackie Kong actually does a special feature on the disc. So how did you meet her, and like how did you kind of get involved with her? Because there's interviews with her going back even, I don't know, maybe 10 years or 8 years. I forget when it was.
Well, I'm just obsessed with Blood Diner, so I I was hounding Jackie every way I could for
Okay.
years before she ever even responded to me.
Okay.
um, I I don't know, how does Jackie get on my radar? Well, or how do I get on Jackie's radar? More like it is, I think that once Blood Diner finally came out on Blu-ray, she was
Yeah.
touring around the country with it and showing it off. So
The Vestron release, I
yeah,
believe.
the Vestron Blu-ray, yeah.
Yeah.
So when it came to doing that, I hit her up immediately and I was like, you got to do New York and I gotta host it. I got to do the Q&A and I gotta, and she finally responded after after many times of reaching out and sending emails. And it's funny, like, to me, it's a dream come true. It's like Jackie's my friend now. We're like actually buddies. Like, I literally sent her a picture of my kid today, and she was like, "Oh my god, the cutest thing ever." So like we're on a real friendship level, and that's just, to me, it's why I do this. Like, I don't do this because I want, you know fanboys to jerk me off or people on Twitter to think I'm the shit. I do this honestly because I want to become friends with all these people that I am obsessed with, and just weasel my way into their lives somehow, which is also just sick and twisted anyway. But uh, but yeah, I got on Jackie finally responded to me, and I can't remember if she responded to old messages too at that point, because I had wrote a huge article about the history of Blood Diner before I'd
Wow.
ever talked to her,
That's
and she did read it eventually and was like, "Wow." And now Jackie goes around saying that I know more about Blood Diner than she does, which I think is funny.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's too bad because her commentary on that Blu-ray is it's good. She gives a lot of history and a lot of context for the movie. So it would have been it's anyways, it'd have been fun to hear your voice on that as well.
Oh, forget about it. That would have been amazing. And one of the things that I tried to get involved in the Night Patrol release and
Okay.
do something, but they just didn't want to do special features for that for some reason. Like, Jackie was up for it, and I don't know what was up with the company, but
Well, who knows?
yeah.
But one more thing I want to harp on really quick from your history that I found super interesting. So you have, as part of your really like tenured resume, you have a art installation at the Museum of Art and Design. Is that right? Did I read that right?
I did at one point.
Yeah. Or I mean, you have that in your
Yeah.
history. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little, that's amazing. Like a VHS installation or something?
This is before, and this is the real deal, and this is before, like, bullshit like Slashback Video in California, where they, like, have like a storefront and put their copy of like Ghoulies and like some kid's drawing version of popcorn or something like that,
Okay.
and display, and they call that a museum. And I had done a pop-up in a real government funded museum, an actual institution of the arts,
Uh-huh.
where, believe it or not, now this is like one of those really funny ones where I think literally what happened, and that's like 10 years ago too at this point, where I think the guy just uh Googled VHS or something, wanted to do it. So the person that was like programming at the theater at the time was Jake Usna, who is Brian Usna's like nephew or
No
something like that.
way. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And he contacted my friend Christina, who is a film programmer in New York. She works at the Nighthawk now. And she had actually been programming at the 92Y Tribeca for years, and that's how I met her. And she used to do a VHS trailer show
Okay.
where she would invite people to come and show trailers off of VHS tapes. And she curated each event with specific people. And my guess is that Jake using a Googled VHS New York or something and saw I don't know how got my name picked my name out of the bunch, contacted Christina. Christina linked us up together. I said, when I went for the first meeting, I was like, I can't, I just got to show up and be like, I know why they picked me. You know what I mean? I just go in there
Okay,
confidently. If I ask them, they're going to second guess why they picked me.
okay.
But I got them to show. I mean, this is like a theater where this is like a whole museum with a big giant theater in it.
Uh-huh.
And, it's like a real museum with members, and members like are in New York and the Upper West Side are like old white people. And
Uh-huh.
they just go to these movies because they feel entitled to it because they pay their membership. And
Sure.
like, and we're showing Necromantic and
I love it.
what else did we show? Tales from the Quad Dead Zone,
Wow.
Hell Roller,
Oh,
uh yeah, Mother's Day.
oh, wow. Is that a trauma movie or no? Maybe
Yeah, that's
it
Mother's
is,
Day is
right?
Trauma,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Oh,
I
wow.
and I, got special guests to come and host each one of them. We showed Something Weird by Herschel Gordon Lewis
Oh,
as
cool.
because Something Weird video is so important, and Something Weird, the namesake movie, is one that doesn't get a lot of play. So I thought that was a good one to show. And I had a lot of really awesome people come and host, like Mike Hunchback, um, and Dan Kinham and Josh Schaefer and a lot of people involved in the VHS world.
Cool.
And I pitched them the concept of doing an installation of a real video store. And, they were like, yeah, okay, sure. We can find a spot in the museum to do that. And we did. And we we had employees. There was this guy. I had this intern guy, this guy Zach Labine, who's really smart and an amazing film historian in his own right, older than me. No right being my intern, you know what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
but he was trying to, you know, involve himself, and now he's doing a lot in the industry. He's actually an actor. But anyway, they bought it hook, line, and sinker, and they let me put my video store up. And it's a lot of that whole concept is me, because I used to work at a video store, and I used to always say that why am I so obsessed with this is because I want to recapture working in the video store, which was like the greatest time of my life. And I think a lot of people who worked in video stores at a certain age. I mean, I worked in an adult store on 8th Avenue in Manhattan when I was 17. So it's
Oh,
like
wow. Perfect.
yeah, it's like crazy time in Manhattan. Yeah, working in the city as a kid and in that type of environment. So, I always say that's a lot of the reason why I'm obsessed with this type of stuff, because I'm trying to relive those days in the video store.
Well, I had two comments on that. I worked at a Blockbuster, which is not that exciting, but it was a franchise Blockbuster, and the person that owned that particular store was a huge Trauma fan. So we have to have been one of probably one or two that had a Trauma section.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
that was my
awesome.
introduction to Trauma, was when I was 19, I guess, 20, I guess, and that's how I got into that world.
Oh,
And then
Trauma is an amazing gateway to
oh,
weirdo movies, like,
yeah,
you
so
know,
accessible.
and they're good. I mean,
Exactly.
that's the thing. They're entertaining. They have crazy titles. The in-house productions are actually really well made. Some of the pickups are not as good, but you have to have a lot of pickups to continually release movies all the time.
So
So,
I'll just share a really, really quick story. My wife and I went to New York City every year after we got married for the anniversary trip for probably 3 years, and 3 or 4 years after we got married. And one of the times I drug her to Queens to go see Troma Studios. And
oh,
I knocked on
nice.
the door, and an intern an intern was outside smoking. I was like, "Can I get a tour?" They're like, "I guess." So I got a tour. I got to meet Lloyd. It was great. I was like, so that's like made my life, one of those moments.
And one of the sweetest guys in the world.
Of
Like,
course, totally.
he's so cool, like, and so funny, and so,
Yeah.
you know, he's a real interesting character. I mean, he is on 24/7. He's not like it you rarely see the mask off, which is interesting about him.
The energy, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I love Lloyd. I've been, he's another guy like I weaseled my way into being his friend somehow.
Awesome. Well, it probably helps that you're in New York. I would have done the same if I lived up
Oh
there.
yeah, forget about it. And I'm lucky in the sense that I don't know if you know about my day job. Do you know what I do for a living?
So that's what I was going to ask. So I saw references to Forbidden Planet, and
Yeah.
but are you still there?
Yeah, I
Okay.
still work there. I've been there 17 years.
Okay.
Um, and it's a matter of pride, man. It's like the city changes constantly and it gets more and more depressing and loses its culture every day. And Forbidden Planet is an institution right in Union Square that keeps New York a little like old New York. And, I grew up with amazing places like Kim's Video where you can go in and get bootleg, Russ Meyer movies as a kid. So, or I was able to get like the, bootleg Sam Raimi short films.
Awesome.
And, Forbidden Planet is like the last of those type of stores downtown. And I always say that for me at this point, it's more about keeping this kind of culture alive. And if there's not a place in downtown New York or New York, period, where
Hmm.
you could walk in and buy a copy of Basket Case,
Hmm.
then we live in a shitty city. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I'm able to provide that by, being at Forbidden Planet and curating their film section and having, everything from, gore whore to, belladonna of sadness. It's like, so I'm able to continue that tradition of a place in New York where you can get cool stuff. And it's important because New York is filled with colleges, filled with young impressionable people that are trying to find themselves.
Hmm.
And there has to be a place that weirdos like me, like when I was growing up, can go to. And it's crazy. In New York City, there was places like Tower and Virgin Megastore, which
Yeah.
were like giant corporate versions of what we do at Forbidden Planet, and they all are gone. But Forbidden Planet lasted. And then there's people that were like Forbidden Planet, like Kim's, that closed, which were, just as important. And it's sad and it sucks. And, I take it personally. So I want to make sure that there's a place where people can go and buy Fangoria magazine or
Right.
drop or zines like Drive an Asylum, stuff that will change some kids' life. Art changes people's lives.
Totally.
And if there's no place to actually have access to this, it's everybody has access to everything through the internet. But the internet, there's no difference between, Forrest Gump and LAH Jabber. It's just a picture on a screen. There's no curation.
Right.
Amazon has everything.
Right.
Google, you can find anything by Googling it, but you have to know what to Google. So by having a curated place in New York City, um, like Forbidden Planet, it makes it easy for weirdos to gravitate towards it and find what they need. And don't get me wrong, we have all the Marvel stuff and the DC stuff, and that's like practically mainstream at this point, but it's still part of, offbeat culture. It's fine. It's totally cool, whatever.
Well, I was talking to Ross a little bit about this from Saturn Square. I know you said you know him as well, but like,
Yes.
it's there's not a strong difference between what a regional shot like a William Hellfire is doing and what oh shoot, what was the artist in New York that had the factory
Andy
uh,
Warhol.
Warhol. There's not a huge difference in what they're doing. There's a group of artists that are getting together and creating this art that is outside of the mainstream, right? They happen to pick up Warhol and make him like an institution, but he was living outside the box for a long
Yeah,
time.
definitely. There are Andy Warhol movies that are just as unwatchable as William Hellfire movies. 100%.
Right? It's this fringe art that needs to be like you have to have it. And so I couldn't agree more. Austin had two, a Vulcan Video and I Love Video.
Oh yeah, I've been
And
to both of them. Awesome.
yeah, well, unfortunately, the doors are closed on both of them now.
Wow, that's
COVID was the
sad.
final nail, but
Jesus Christ. Well,
yeah,
it's funny. I don't know if this is off topic or somewhat in the realm. Okay, you mentioned, you comparing Andy Warhol to William Hellfire, but Andy Warhol's still a weirdo. But then I watched I just did a marathon of the new Jurassic Park movies because
okay.
I hadn't watched them yet, and the new one came out, and I said, you know what the hell, I'll watch the other two new ones,
Sure.
and then I'll watch this. And the second series, the second one in the series of the new ones, which is what I'm finding to be the one that everyone hates. I don't know if you've seen these or have any interest in these.
I'll eventually get to them, but I haven't
Uh,
seen
and I'm sorry if I spoil anything here for you, but I'm going to
them.
anyway. I'm watching the second one, and it is not good. It's not a good movie, but the concepts behind it and some of the things in it are like so far out there. There's like, in the end, there's a reveal, like there's like a little girl that they're all like trying to find at one point or something like that. And the little girl in the end, they reveal is part dinosaur and has dinosaur. That's like straight out of a Roger Corman movie. And this is like a mainstream
It's
movie.
amazing. Yeah.
So it's, the mainstream, it's so skewed at this point anyway, that we live in a world where summer blockbusters, you can accept the concept of a dinosaur girl hybrid, and that's what summer entertainment is now. I don't know, but then I think it's like, am I crazy here? Has it always been like this? Have summer blockbusters, I guess, Independence Day 20 years ago was one of the biggest movies ever, and it's an alien invasion movie. It's like, maybe we just really like weird stuff at heart. I don't know. Maybe we're all weirdos.
You said that you talking about Andy Milligan earlier. I think there's certain directors like that, H.G. Lewis. I would love to see them with a $50 million budget, because if they had a real, like, quote unquote, like a real crew, because that's the thing, like, the production is different from the story in these Hollywood movies. The people that are working on the films are amazing at their job, right? Like the graphics and the whatever, like the set designers and all that. Like it would be amazing to see some of these people with a budget like that.
Yeah, in my head though, it's like you give Herschel Gordon Lewis $1 million budget, he will make the same exact movie he did with no budget and then buy a new house with the rest of the money.
Maybe.
But Milligan, I don't think he would be even able to know what to do. I don't know. I mean, Milligan did amazing stuff with so little because he was
Yeah,
such a control freak and did everything himself. So
but Carpenter's like that, right? That's what John Carpenter did.
yeah,
Anyway,
that's
not, it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
I just want to see it once. I just want to see like some of the, because the stories are unique. Like the ending of LA AIDS Jabber, I won't spoil it, but
yeah.
it makes you rethink the whole movie.
Well,
Right?
that's what I'm saying. It's like, Blood Diner's like $1 million movie. It's probably not $1 million movie, but it's like it's a high budgeted movie, and you see something like that, and you watch it, and you really pay attention to what goes into it. I mean, it's such a dense movie, and it's shot really well, and there's so much action going on, and there's crane shots, and there's clever editing, and it's like that's like giving somebody a lot of money to make Blood Feast is Blood Diner.
Yeah,
And
true.
you know but it takes somebody like Jackie who knows how to work people
Yeah.
to make the money worth it, but I don't know. It takes the right person to make a good movie with a lot of money, because we've seen tons of shitty movies that were made with tons of money.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So one thing you tying into Blood Diner, I guess, just kind of going back into movies here. So Visual Vengeance, one of the things that I think anytime there's a new label that comes out on the marketplace, one of the ways that I think you've been very smart about, and I'm sure this was intentional, but is the cover art is very striking, right? So I know that you have a background as an illustrator. Is it your art?
No, not at all. I mean, these are all different artists that are professionals. I'm a professional bullshit artist. I'm not a professional illustrator. These are all real illustrators, real people out there. I'm just kidding. The No, it's important. I think though art is really important. And I think that by having very good new illustrated artwork, it helps draw people in, because I mean that's what drew us all into movies in the first place, and with
Yep.
poster art, and like going back to things like Corman, you see those Corman posters, like, like the Wasp Woman doesn't deliver what's in the movie, but the poster is amazing.
You go see it because of
Yeah,
the poster. Exactly.
because of the artwork. And I wouldn't say that the artwork for Visual Vengeance doesn't actually pay off in the movie, because I think everything is pretty much representative. It's not even like a lie,
This
you
is
know.
amazing. Suburban Sasquatch is what I'm holding up.
Yeah, there is.
Guy's ripped off arm and it's like bleeding, and but like, this is amazing artwork.
Well, there is a Sasquatch and there is gore, so it doesn't lie.
Yeah.
But I think that having a lot of different artwork is important, because, and I'm not trying to call any labels out here, but there's a lot of labels out there where you get the movie and a slipcase, and I don't even want to get into the whole slipcase conversation. It's almost like, you have to have a slipcase these days, or else people don't even want the movie for some reason. But if you're gonna have a slipcase, what's the point of the slipcase art being the same as the art underneath it?
I
What
know what
is,
you mean.
I don't get it. And that kind of has become a standard lately almost.
Yeah.
Um, and especially when a lot of this art is new art created too. So that means there is original art still out there. And if you notice the Visual Vengeance, like we talked with Jamber, so far everything has had new commissioned art on the cover, new commissioned art on the slipcase, and then the original videotape art or original DVD art if it wasn't released on tape, or some type of original art having to do with the movie's initial release
Hmm.
as the inside flip. So you're getting three pieces of art. Um, I mean, I think there's some movies that'll come out eventually that might even, I mean, they've all had a poster. I think some of them might even have different art on the poster at some point, because, you know, creating art is awesome. Just creating new art representing these movies is awesome, especially the shot on video movies that came out at a certain time period in the 90s, where a lot of the art started getting really bad and
Mm.
getting kind of like a throwaway looking. Like, I mean, like the Necrophiles, for instance, which is,
Yeah.
the artwork is just like, it's not bad, it's just not interesting. It's just a, couple photos from the movie,
Right.
with the text over it. It's not horrible, but it's just not very interesting.
Yeah.
So to get to, Cormanize these movies in a way that is gonna, it's first off, it's gonna like open it up to a different audience too, because there's the people that know what this stuff is, and there's the people who have no idea what this stuff is.
Right.
So art is really important. um
Yeah.
and saying from being, having gone to school for art, and understanding the concept of using art in the illustrative manner, which is commercial art, it really is important to have good striking art to draw people in. I mean, that's been since day one. That's why, you see these amazing, Herschel Gordon Lewis posters and you want them,
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
it's why you go to see the movie.
I heard an amazing interview from Bill Lustig one time where he was talking about, I forget, is it 8th Avenue where all the kind of adult video stores and theaters were?
Yeah, 42nd Street is where
42nd Street.
the movies were, and 8th Avenue is where all the adult video stores are. So
42nd Street is what he was talking about.
yeah,
You just said 8th Avenue, right?
yeah.
Recently. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was talking about 42nd Street, and he like the lessons he learned from 42nd Street. And like when you would walk along there, I think he works in a theater there or something, or he's from that area, something. But when you walked along that street, it was like, they'd have these posters that would draw you in, and it would just be a skin flick, but like the poster made it look revolutionary. And like that's carried through all of his physical media releases. He's done it at every stop, and you can tell.
Oh yeah, I mean, Maniac poster, one of the,
Right.
I mean, one of the best posters. And Lustig, it's funny for me because my personal opinion about Lustig's films is, Maniac is, I mean, it's a classic, but it's not that great. Maniac Cop is more is boring. But Vigilante, which is my favorite movie by him and is a movie that I think anybody could watch and be like blown away by. It has the most generic looking art. It's like the least exciting art.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that's just my opinion about Lustig movies. I feel like I'll get, crucified for saying bad things about Maniac, but I like Maniac. Don't get me wrong. I go far as saying I love Maniac, but it's not, it's not as good as some stuff,
Well, there's certain people that transcend the films that they made. I think he's
Yeah.
one of those had such an impact on the industry that he kind of,
Oh,
kinda,
Lustig is an insane character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so you have 5 releases that are currently out, right? Or maybe
Mhm.
4. Is the fourth one is the one that's
Four.
out? Okay,
There's
Sasquatch is
four
the
out so
last one.
far. Yeah, there's 4 out so far. The fifth one is coming. The fifth and sixth ones will be out soon, which are The Blood of the Chupacabra 2 movie set, which is one that I'm really interested in seeing people's reactions on, because those movies are kind of not really well known, and not because they're obscure, like because they had, releases, but I don't know. I just don't ever hear anybody talking about them.
Right.
And when I first saw them, I was like, wow, this is kind of a solid movie. I was impressed. Uh, so I'm excited to see other people's, like,
Cool.
because it's having worked at video stores and being a collector of movies for so many years, it's hard to come across something that you're like, I don't know, and then watching it and actually being like, oh, that's good. And when that happens, that's the stuff that throws me for a loop, where I'm like, holy shit, I gotta
Yeah.
I gotta start, I gotta figure this one out. But yeah, the Chupacabra movies, that was actually a Rob pick. He got that, and I was like, oh wow, it was like one of those. I was like, oh wow, you got that? That's cool. But the other one that's coming out, Slaughter Day. I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't. Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen the trailer. Yeah, not the movie,
Yeah,
but yeah, I've seen the trailer.
that is a personal like movie that I hold near and dear to my heart. Again, it's a movie that I don't know anyone else who has ever seen it before. I got that movie from a friend of mine who is 15 years older than me,
Okay.
and had been going to conventions forever, and is a huge film fan. His name is Sal, and he's a really good friend of mine, and he's a complete madman, and he has put me onto a lot of stuff. And this movie is a movie that he had bought on tape at a convention, because Ron Bonk actually put it out.
Okay.
Sub Rosa and Salt City, and he did all those labels back in the day on, he made movies too. And he had released this movie Slaughter Day on VHS. Sal got a copy at a convention. And then when me and Sal first became friends, he started giving me all his VHS tapes. And he was like, have you ever heard of this movie? And I said, I've never heard of this movie ever. I don't know
Mhm.
anything about it. He goes, oh my God, it's one of the best. You got to see that. Talking about it like everyone should know this, but no one knows this movie. And I watched it, and it blew my mind. Top 5 SOVs of all time,
Oh wow.
100%. It's a game changer. When people start seeing this, their minds are going to be blown. They're going to be obsessed with the cousin brothers, um, the the 2 Hawaiian brothers that made Slaughter Day.
Great.
Um, but I contacted Ron immediately. I said, Ron, what's up with Slaughter Day? What's up with that? And Ron said, oh, I sold 12 copies of that. He said that was like a bomb. And I get it, because the cover is horrible. the cover is like the worst thing in the world.
Okay.
But if you actually get past the cover and watch it, it's like the total opposite of what we're saying. It's like this is a movie that if you see the
Cover.
cover, you would never want to watch it.
Uh-huh.
But you know, he said that like sold 12 copies. So 12 copies in existence. I have one of them. I
Wow.
don't know. I've never heard of anybody else with another copy. I don't know anybody else who's seen it. And I showed this movie to Rob, and Rob said the same thing when he saw it. He said, "This might be my favorite SOV."
Wow.
And so that was always in the back of our heads of movies, a movie to get for the label. Um, you know,
Generally speaking, is when you're working with SOB, is it as easy as just calling up Ron and getting the rights? Like
Well,
how
Ron didn't have the rights anymore. Ron that reverted. I mean, if Ron had the rights to it, he would have put it out himself at some point. He would have not just let it sit. I mean, Ron has been he's been active all this time. He's been making. He's been putting out movies. He never went away.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I should have asked the question differently. Is it as easy as just calling up people is it one phone call where basically the rights holder, the director, or somebody just picks up and you kind of talk to them and get the rights? Is it usually like that?
If you're lucky,
Okay.
sometimes sometimes it's impossible to get in touch with people.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people don't want anything to do with these types of movies. It's funny, like when I first saw Jabber, I messaged Drew on Facebook immediately about it, and he never even responded. I think he deleted me after I messaged. Like, I think he might have been embarrassed about it 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And now times change and everything ages, differently, and people change their opinion about things. It's just like Jackie didn't answer me for so long until eventually she was, getting back out there because her movie was getting revived on Blu-ray. I think that some people, if you're lucky, yes, you could just call somebody and be like, hey, but then not every movie is, not every movie is owned by the director. That's a big problem that people don't understand in this world, is that, just because you contact a director and say, hey, can I put your movie out? And they say, yeah, it doesn't mean that director actually owns the movie. It's like there's producers and money people and all types of things. And movies get sold from catalog to catalog. And, it's like, how does Troma end up owning Frankenhooker? You know what I mean? Which is like where Henenlotter would be like embarrassed to say that his movies are Troma movies, but in 2020 now his movie are literally Troma movies. It's like a crazy, the world of film acquisitions is very
Interesting.
well, it comes to bite you in the ass eventually, I guess. If you think you're better than somebody. I don't know. I'm just talking shit.
No, but it's interesting though, because so basically there's like you're just saying everything is different. Like you might call Drew and he may own the rights or he may not. It may be like through some catalog.
Or he might lie and say he does. Who knows? You know what I mean? That's the thing.
Okay.
If somebody called me and said, hey, you own the rights to this, blah blah, I'd be like, and I haven't thought about it in 30 years, I would be like, sure.
I think so.
Yeah. How much are you gonna pay me? Sure, give me that money. Sure. Or maybe if it's just about ego too, you want, you know what I mean? It's not always about money.
Yeah. You want to say you have it. So one of the big things that people always ask about is you have the limited editions. After those sell out, are you putting out standards?
Yeah, there'll be standard editions. And I think that goes back to our original conversation about the slipcases and the art. It's like, if the art on the slipcase was the same exact art on the cover, and say we were just a standard label that didn't have all the other cool extras that you're getting, because I mean, every DVD, every Blu-ray is packaged with a lot of cool stuff. And Necrophiles has a condom in it. Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder has a video star card. They all have the sticker sheets,
Yeah.
posters, liner notes. They all have a lot. They're all packed to the gills with a lot of stuff. And but say you were just a standard company that just had the slipcover and the case. And then so the limited edition is the slipcover. And then who cares if it's the same artwork? You're not even getting anything special for having the limited edition.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a big reason why the art is different, because it makes those first print runs very special, where you can
Mm.
get the slipcover. Yes, because all collectors are slipcover freaks. I'm just kidding. As remember, I said we talked about editing, right? I'm just kidding. No, I don't care. I'm
Hey,
a
guilty. Guilty. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
if I have a choice between a slipcover and not, I'm gonna go with the slipcover every time.
For a long time, I was with you. You know what I mean? But just recently, I started saying, I don't know if I care as much. I don't know.
Your
Um,
life's a lot easier if that's true.
Especially considering the art is all the same now on
Well, yeah.
all of them. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I'm like, do I need it? If I eliminate all these slipcovers, I could probably fit a couple more blues on the shelf.
That's true.
You know, and ultimately, I am a collector, but if somebody says, "Do you collect movies?" I don't really immediately think of that as my collection. It's like I just buy movies because I want to watch them, and
Yeah, yeah.
I have tons of them, and I buy books because I want to read them, and I have tons of them. But I don't call those my collections. I collect art. I collect posters, original art,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's what I call stuff that you can't really, that you really just look at, and you can't get anything other than looking at it. And don't get me wrong, as I said, art can change somebody's life. So looking at art can change your life and inspire you, but it's not like reading a book or watching a movie.
Yeah, sure.
So that's like more in the realm, I think, of like, this is something I collect because it's something I look at. Like people collect toys, like, do they sit home and play with them? Probably not. They just look at them and have them on display.
Right.
um
When I was trying to get my DVD and now Blu-ray collection moved into the living room, I toyed around with the idea of calling it my library to see if my wife would bite. It didn't work. It's in the kids' room underneath, but
oh wow.
yeah, but I mean, I go in there.
So your kids room is filled with like Vinegar Syndrome porn on 4K. Is that
But it
what?
has like a beautiful like forest scene covering it, so you would never know.
um no, I listen, I'm lucky. My wife is, she works in the film industry. She's, I showed her the first day we hung out, we watched movies, and
Awesome.
we watched, she was like, let me see some of these movies, and I was like, all right, I'll show you stuff that is important to me. And I think that other people would get without having to be like obsessive. Like I showed her Psychos in Love, which is my top 5 movies of all time. And I think that anybody who likes movies would fall in love with that movie if they see it.
Yeah, it's very accessible. It's great.
Yeah, but it's cult, and it's a deep cut. You know what I mean? But if you watch it, it is accessible. Um, and I think that a lot of the visual vengeance movies are like that, where they're, okay, maybe Necrophiles is not the most accessible movie I mean, it's about some pretty heavy stuff. But it's like it's done in a very humorous manner. So I think that average people could watch and really get a kick out of it.
Well, this is like it. I really like Takashi Miike movies,
Mhm.
and his movies I think are the example I always use, where it's like I just watched Dead or Alive 2 recently, and it has a scene of somebody having sex with a recently deceased corpse. That's true. And yes, it has one scene of this, crazy content, but it's a sweet movie about these guys trying to relive their childhood and going back and rediscovering what they love in life. And like, that's what Miyake does. He mixes these two together, and he puts in this like, nasty content that makes people squirm in a sweet film. And and with a not they're not all sweet, like, but I
Yeah.
mean, but it's common where he mixes this in, and it's like a story about people finding friendship from an orphanage or something, and it's like this nice story. And yes, it also has this like objectionable stuff, but like
Yeah.
I think you can have both.
I think you're right. I mean, and he's a interesting example because he has such a large body of work too,
Yeah, he's a whole
so
studio into himself almost.
yeah, and there's guys out there like with these giant bodies of work that you're like, oh wow, there's stuff that is very normal. It's like Fulci made westerns, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
you know, grandma's gonna be able to watch that, but she might not watch,
All of his stuff.
the Beyond, but
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, I try to I guess the concept is to release movies that people are gonna like, you know what I mean? And not just release them because they're obscure or because they're shot on video. It's like, you want to release things that people are gonna actually enjoy to watch too.
this is what I love about what AGFA's doing, what Saturn's Core is doing, and what you're doing. And I think this is why I'm so interested in drawing attention to it, because you have done the hard work of seeing thousands of movies, a lot of them which probably suck. And there are some that stick out, and you're like, hey, people need to see this. And so I just like stressing that every time I speak with someone like you, like what you are showing us is like, it's like you're inviting friends over to the first horror boobs group, and
Yeah,
you're like, check out this movie, it's great, right? Like, let's watch this.
that's exactly what it is. It's like just taking it to the next level. I mean, that's why I got into programming films. That's like what, like we did them in a house at first. We would invite people over and just have them come and watch these crazy movies that we kept discovering, you know and then we took it further, and now it's, and then we started releasing our own movies, doing it
Yeah.
DIY on VHS, or we did some DVDs. But now it's like the next level of doing it really legit, and it's in major distribution, and it's out there, it's like on Amazon.
I
But
love
the
it.
stuff was but the thing is, these things were out, if they were out, you can get them on Amazon back in, you know what I mean? The Amazon's been around for 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
You were able to get this stuff on Amazon. It's just highlighting it again in a new way. It's like, hey, remember this? It's all things age, things, they come around. It's at the right time. They age just the right amount for people nowadays to look back a little more fondly. Because when, shot on video stuff, like I said, the first shot on video movie I saw was Cannibal Hookers. When I first saw that, I was like, this is fucking shit. You know what I mean? I was like, because I wasn't used to stuff like that.
Yeah.
um but then the more you see, the more you're, you can actually be like, okay, well, it's not just bad because it's shot on video. It's bad because it's a bad movie.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but the shot on video stuff is jarring at first. It makes you feel like it's like those, you know, sometimes. Now, I'm not trying to harp or say anything bad here. Don't take this the wrong way, but it's like when you found a movie with a crazy title and then you realize it was a wave movie.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, oh wait, oh, it's wave. Okay, now I get it. It's like, all right, I know what I'm getting into. You
Yeah,
know what I
sure.
mean?
I got you.
Not like, but there are some wave movies that are pretty, they're good. They're over the top, and but it's a huge catalog with a lot of filler. Um,
Well, that was unique in the way that they're produced. It's like
yeah,
it's almost inevitable that you're gonna have a lot of bad stuff just because you're
yeah,
trying to force a story around people's desires, right? So
yeah. So it's a whole different ball game. But that's like, you want to see something, and you're digging in. I like what you said before. It's like about having done this for so long and putting the work in. I'll tell you a story. Because I was on paternity leave because I just had a kid, and I came back to work 2 weeks ago, and there's a guy came in who I haven't seen in a minute, and he's like, oh, what's been up? What have you been doing? Blah blah blah. And I was like, well, I've been, working with this label, and the releases are finally coming out. You know, he's a cinema guy, he's a film guy who would come to a lot of film related things, and he's like, oh, cool. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm producing special features for this company, and I'm helping them acquire films, um and he's like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, we're doing, you know, I've been doing commentaries and liner notes and all types of stuff, interviews with people. He was like, oh man, you think I could do that? And I was like, I think anybody could do it, but it's taken me 10 years of doing these things in some capacity on my own
Yeah.
before I could do it for real. You know what I mean? Before somebody else consistently said, hey, yeah, you're pretty good at this. Why don't you do this for us? You know what I mean? It took a long time to get there. So some people, like, you know, that's like fanboy syndrome, where they're just like, well, I could do that. I could, and you know, thank God there are people like that, because that's a lot of how we get these movies, because people out there are like, oh, I could do that. And then they make these completely insane shot on video films, and they do, and they made it. So thank God for people like that. But at the same time, it's insulting when you just are like, no, I could do what you can do. When they just, it's just because, yeah, I don't know. I'm just,
So the last question I have, I only let it go this long if I'm having a good time. So thank you for taking this much time. This has been awesome.
You can edit out as much as you want.
No, I mean, I can't imagine. I hope other people are having a good time, because I'm really loving talking to you.
I wanted to talk about Criterion movies. That's what you do normally, right? Have you been?
Well, okay, so yeah, so the podcast just started out of a Criterion Film Club, but I'm a little bit of an oddball in this group, because like most of my collection is genre movies.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I want to watch a 60s, you know, Japanese, you know, film, some, you know, or like some crazy shot on video thing from like Southern England, or like I'm all over the place, and I'm kind of forcing. I just saw Passion of Joan of Arc the other day. You know, Carl Dreyer's big, like famous. I think it's rated as like the 18. It's from 1928, and it's rated as like the 18th best movie of all time, and it's
okay.
You know, and all this, and like for honestly, like I will watch those, and I go in assuming I'm not gonna like it, but I'll appreciate it. And sometimes they surprise me. Like sometimes they're good, and I get it, but sometimes I'm like, it's a little masturbatory, you know.
Do you have streaming Criterion channel?
I do.
Did you see they put up those Jackie Chan movies? Have you watched any of them?
Oh, I haven't. No, not on the Criterion channel. I haven't seen that, I guess.
They put up some Jackie Chan movies, and I'm like, whoa, is Criterion going to do some Jackie Chan blues? I'm like, getting hyped, because why would those be on the channel? I don't know. You know, maybe they just licensed them from somebody, but it's like all those Jackie blues, I believe, are UK or something like that. So
yeah,
I don't think anybody here has put out a lot of them. I
know
know
they're all UK. That's right.
Yeah, I know 88 Films is putting out one coming up, but I mean, there's one on the Criterion channel, My Lucky Stars, which I highly suggest. It's a Sammo Hung one. Which means it's going to be super funny. It is super funny. It's amazing. It's you know, it's you got to watch it. It's so good, and I'm hoping that Criterion starts doing Chan Jackie Blu-rays. I mean, I would be so hyped.
I mean, that would be an amazing set. He's in a lot of movies, but Bruce Lee set was phenomenal. So
wait, what's that? Which one?
The Bruce Lee set.
The Bruce Lee set. Yeah, forget about it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, they're great. I got the Godzilla. I got the Van Peebles box set. You know, it's you know, Criterion does great stuff, man.
Well, we're at this point in history where Vinegar.
I'm saying Criterion does great stuff. It's like, do I really have to tell anybody that?
No, they don't need the. Yeah,
they need my approval.
But no, we're at this point in history where like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow are pushing Criterion. They're all kind of pushing each other, right? Which is better for
They're
all of us.
pushing the retail up is what they're doing.
Well, that's it.
The SRPs, that's the only thing they're pushing.
That's it. Which is good for you though, if you can sell at a higher price point, right?
No, all our stuff is at a lower price point, which is the thing about it. It's like, even because if you put the SRP at $30, retailers are still going to sell it for like $22 or something like that. So like Criterion and our Arrow, their SRPs are like $40,
Yeah.
and you get them at most places between 30 and 35. So, but no, it's like it goes back to what I was saying about you know access. uh, Only you know people who are like obsessed with this type of stuff, or dedicating their lives to it, or this is what they spend their money on, are gonna no have no problem dropping $30 to $40 on all these Arrow releases of some really shitty movies. But I want to make sure that the kid that just moved to New York for college, who's got no money, can go into a store or or whatever, even order on Amazon. It's still cheaper on Amazon, whatever. I can afford this stuff
Mm-hmm.
because
You want
that's
them to see
who.
Slaughter Day.
Yeah, I want people to see it. I don't want them to be, and that's a big thing. Rob is 100% behind. It's like, that's his mantra. He's the one who is of that mindset too. And that goes back to stuff like, Hen and Lauder. He did it, and he changed the face of you know home video history by telling media that they had to sell basket case cheaper, because videotapes cost, like, back in the day, it's like $60 or $70 or $100 to buy
Yeah,
a VHS tape.
right.
I remember going into the video store trying to buy UHF the day it came out, and they're like, that's $100. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I'm a kid, and I was like, I don't have $100 to buy a
Yeah.
movie. um but but Henenlotter made sure that his movie went out there at an affordable price, because he knows his audience: young kids, stoners, people that are gonna, don't have a lot of money, and
Wow.
that's who's actually gonna buy basket case. And it worked, and they sold so many basket cases. And
Interesting.
that
I didn't know that story actually. That's amazing.
yeah, that's so he pretty much invented, sell through, which is, cheap, affordable home videos. He's the guy who forced their hand to
Amazing.
reduce the price, because it's in his head, it's a numbers game. You sell more copies at a lower price than
Of
fewer
course.
copies at a higher price, and that makes sense. Plus, I personally am getting, as a fan of this stuff and a person that collects movies or buys movies to watch, it starts getting, out of hand, and it has been getting out of hand with the prices and
Yeah.
once Arrow came out with their, standard SRP, then all these other companies started inching their prices up. Fucking Shout Factories are like $40 now, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like the new ones. And it's like, listen, I get it. $40 if for that Creep Show box set thing that they did with the nice hard box, got all the extra stuff in it, that I get. But then when you're buying,
Microwave Massacre to reference.
no, Microwave Massacre is worth $1 million. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's like, see, you picked the wrong movie with
No,
me.
no. I saw it. You reference it in one of your things as you reference it by name. I love that movie. It's one of the craziest premises I've ever
What
seen.
did really? I don't even know. I probably, yeah. I mean, I love it. That's why I probably referenced it. But I don't know. I can't even think of like a new. It's like a new one that just came out, which is pretty bad that I can't think of a new one. Like, but like, I don't know. Species just came out on Blu-ray. I'm sure that's $40. I mean, and that's like, you're really kidding me, because you can go to the
Dollar.
Goodwill and get a copy of Species right now, probably for $1. Um, yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. There was like like the Cursed, the werewolf Christina Ricci one's like $40, and I'm just like, you really? This is, I don't get it, you know.
But yeah,
That's my rant on pricing. Yeah, Visual Vengeance, uh it's not gonna creep up to that amount because I think it's important to, and then in 3 years they'll be $50 and you'll be like, that guy lied to us. No, just kidding. But no, but it's true. It's like it's important. And Rob is the one who said that you got to be able, and I get it. I'm 100% with that mentality. It's like every, average people, young people are the people that you want to get into this stuff.
yeah, exactly.
The way I
So,
met
yeah,
Rob,
tell me.
the way I met Rob from Wild Eye was a little over 10 years ago, because I know it's a little over 10 years because this place just had their 10-year anniversary, the Nighthawk Theater
Oh yeah.
in Williamsburg. They now have two locations. One's in Prospect Park, too. Uh, the Nighthawk in Williamsburg, they're like, a hip theater where you can get food at, and they have a bar, and they show, you know, awesome repertoire cinema,
Yeah.
and but they also show first run stuff, so anybody can go there, and you don't have to just, know whatever Kurosawa movie they might be. I don't know. Like, I just throwing that out there. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh they also show like the brand new movies. And the guy who was my connection there, this is like the funniest thing. It was like, this was like early in the horror movies world when we would do the stuff at the house and just have parties at the house and show movies. And there was a girl, Amanda, who was close knit with us, and she was original part of the original Horror Boobs crew. And she had a friend who, her job was setting up parties for places or for people. And when Nighthawk opened, they hired her to do the opening party. So Amanda went as a guest of that girl,
Okay.
and they have a giant wall of VHS tapes there. And she struck up a conversation with this guy John, who is an integral member of the cinema, of the Nighthawk Company, and one of the special events programmers, uh, and was talking about VHS with him because it was his collection. He used to actually run a video store called Real Life, and that's where all those tapes came from. And she was a tape collector, and she told him about Horror Boobs, and he was like, well, you guys should do something at the theater. And so she came back, and we were like, this is awesome. We're gonna do, because we were showing stuff at like, I was showing stuff at like a pizzeria before that. I think we had showed some stuff at Spectacle, which was like, it's like a 30-seat theater in
Okay.
Williamsburg, So, but we were like, oh wow, we're gonna get to do something at this place. And so we had a meeting with John, and John had this other guy there, Rob,
Okay.
who was an old friend of his, and he was like, we should do some type of thing all together, VHS related. So that's how I met Rob, doing these parties. We would do these parties there. We had a monthly event that was literally like 6 hours worth of programming that we put together, and it would be themed. And we would do a game show, we would
Amazing.
do trailer reel, clip comps, a feature, shorts,
Uh-huh.
like all types of, literally 6 hours worth of programming. We would edit on VCRs, like old school,
Uh-huh.
and do them right there, and and we weren't even in a theater. They would put us in the lobby, so we're like projecting stuff on the screen. People were coming in, it's free. And there was a tape swap, so people set up all over these tables with their tapes to sell and swap with each other. And it was like this big party, and it's like people would be coming to see like whatever first run movie, and like we'd be there with like microphones, like yelling things that, or like, there'd be like nothing but nude scenes on the screen, and like people would be coming in from like seeing Drive,
Yeah.
and we would be like, just ripping on, like yelling in people's faces that are just normies, I guess, or whatever, hipsters, Williamsburg, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And there we and we did like underwater VHS. It's everything was like sea themed, or we did like I don't know. There was so many. It was like
Uh-huh.
it starts to blur because it's over 10 years ago now. But it's the reason I am bringing it all around is like that's how I first met Rob. We became really great friends since then. We've been working on projects forever, and this year, I'm we did that for 9 months,
Okay.
and then we stopped doing it. It was getting to be out of control, and it just didn't. It was too much, I think, for doing stuff in a lobby, and then like there was always like, oh, we should do stuff in the theaters, and it just didn't really come together. And but I had programmed plenty of things, and hosted lots of movies at Nighthawk over those past 10 years. It's not like 10 years. I did 9 months and then walked away.
Yeah.
But the reason that I'm bringing this all up now is because this September we'll be launching a brand new monthly series called Visual Vengeance in the theater, not in the lobby. not,
Upgraded.
not in the lobby, where we'll be showing Visual Vengeance movies, the movies from the catalogs. And right now they're ones that have come out already, but who knows, we might get to a point where we're going to be showing ones that haven't come out yet, so you might get sneak peeks by coming to this. But every month, um at Nighthawk Cinema in Williamsburg, there'll be a Visual Vengeance night where we'll be showing movies. And the first one is September 1st. We're showing Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell. I'll be hosting. There's going to be free giveaways, and then there's going to be an after party in the bar, where I'll be DJ. And
Nice.
I DJ strictly with vinyl. I'll be lugging, my records with me.
Uh-huh.
None of this laptop DJing. I don't know what that is. That's not what I. It's like if I want to listen to music off the laptop, I'll stay home. Um, so that is, coming up. We've got Slaughter Days. It is the second one, and then I'm not sure what the next ones in order will be, but I'm sure we'll be showing Moonchild, which was just announced.
Uh-huh.
And we got to show LAH Jabber. That's going to
Yeah.
be totally, these are movies because the theater going crowd is even different from the physical media crowd, because there's
Yeah.
people that just go see movies in the theaters and
Right.
they don't buy them. So getting these movies out there any way we can is important. So yeah, come out to the Nighthawk and hang out. We'll be there. We'll be giving away stuff. We'll also have a merch table, so if you want to
Nice.
buy stuff directly from Visual Vengeance, instead of giving Amazon that money, which I understand. You don't want to give money to the evil conglomerate. So give it directly to the little guy.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
Coming, yeah. So yeah, come out. That'd be great. I'd love to meet everyone.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Housing it on. It's an element of preservation there too.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, Matt, thank you so much. Great conversation. What are the closing remarks you want people to hear about Visual Vengeance?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot.
don't think that don't see this new label that came out of nowhere and be like, I could do that. Because it literally has taken years to get. I mean, this label, we've been working on a lot of this stuff for years, and just because it's all coming out right now and it looks really cool, does look easy, but don't think that there hasn't been a lot of work that went into this stuff. Because it's interesting now that people are treating this stuff with such respect, with these companies like AGFA and Saturn's Core, and they're getting these really fancy treatments. And I think that's really cool that people are going back and appreciating these movies in a different way than when they first came out. It is preservation. You're right. It is about that. And I think that a bunch of the movies that are on the Visual Vengeance roster are ones that are really important and need to be, you know, preserved, like Slaughter Day. If it would have just disappeared, you
Yeah.
know. A lot of these titles are going to be like that, and then there's some that aren't. It's like, Suburban Sasquatch is there's Red Letter Media, which made that movie huge, you know. So and riff tracks and stuff like that, which
Uh-huh.
made these movies like really well known, which is really cool. Um, so there's some of them that are living in this other like world of I don't get that world so much because you know it is like kind of like making fun of it in a way, but I think they do appreciate it too. So I think it's easy to feel better than something by making fun of it, and that's fine. And it's good if it exposes it to people, but that's not what we're doing. And we're showing it respect in a different
Yeah.
way. But it's still cool. I'm still a whole. I don't care if it's because you want to laugh at LAH Jabbers while you watch it. I just want people to see it.
If that's the reason you go in, I think you'll be surprised at the fact that it's a good story. It's like a solid, well-made, well-told story.
Yeah,
Um,
I thank you for articulating that in a one sentence where I went on and on. Uh,
no, it's true though. Like the way that I think there's it just like you said, there's an adjustment period when you start watching shot on video, and I think when I revisit, I'm really glad I saw LAH Jabber yesterday, as opposed to 10 years ago or something like that. Like I think it depends on what else you've seen, and like you said,
yeah,
a lot of big budget movies are so dumb that there's no real story there anyways. It's like it starts to like kind of fall apart, this artifice between like
yeah.
budget and quality, and eventually I think you just get to a point, you see enough movies and you're like, hey, if it's a good story, compelling, like I can see the intent behind the execution.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Doctor Strange expecting something exciting because it's Sam Raimi, and I didn't even. I was like, "What am I watching? This
Oh,
is so. It's
I'm
just
nervous to watch it for that reason.
yeah, it's
I have,
so. It's like over bombastic, and there's no. You don't feel like there's anything at risk. I don't even. I couldn't even tell what I was watching. Like I was so abrasive. I was bummed. I was bummed, and Sam Raimi is one of my favorites. Evil Dead changed my life.
sure.
You know what I mean? It's quintessential, and it's crazy to me because there's these movies that were releasing like Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, Japanese Evil Dead, Slaughter Day is a riff on Evil Dead. It's like all these movies are inspired by Evil Dead that are
Right.
coming out on the label, which I love. It's so cool to me. It's because it's like I get it. I mean, if it wasn't for Evil Dead, I don't know, if I would be as obsessed. It's like Evil Dead and Blood Diner. If it wasn't for those two things, I don't know if I would be the person I am today.
I love it. Awesome. Perfect way to end it. Thank you. I hope everybody listening buys or gives some stuff on Visual Vengeance a shot. I enjoyed it. I don't want to say more than I thought I would. I just, when I hear a new label coming out, I go in and I just try it because you never know. And I really love what I've seen so far. And so thank you for doing the hard work, the 20 years of work or 15, whatever, to get to the point where you can release these. And please keep doing it.
Oh, forget about it. Rob has been doing it. In reality, like, yeah, Rob has been in this world even longer than I have because he's a little older than I am. And so he's, again, it's a lifetime of watching movies and wanting to give back. There's a point um where certain people are just like, I can't just be a fan anymore.
Uh-huh.
I want to contribute to this in some way,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's why there's all these people that are like, I could do that.
yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, dude.